I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, July the 17th, brought to you in part by Livestock Risk Services. Of course, that's Dakota Moss, who offices there in the Exchange Building at the Oklahoma National Stockyards in Oklahoma City. He wanted me to remind you that there will be no LRP prices on Friday because of the cattle on feed report. So if you want to cover yourself and your cattle, you need to do that on Thursday or wait until Monday. But now that we've been up on this high point here for a long time, and we don't know how long it's going to last. I know you've made some money the last year or two. Hold on to that money. Protect yourself. Go out there and find you a strike price on one of those out front futures there. Dally up to that. Call and get a hold of them. They'll tell you how it all works. Find more information out at livestockriskservices.com. Steady legs, a calm board and no black swan circling, at least so far this week, lets bullish fundamentals steady moods and feelings. And I mentioned a couple of times that last week, especially the mid part of last week, moods were pretty down. They were backing up bids on country cattle, both for fed cattle and for grass yearlings out there too. There's just been a lot of them moved. I mean, a lot. And of course, a lot of those are going to go into the same feedlots, and so they're starting to plug some holes up. Yes, we're extremely tight on numbers of all classes of cattle, especially slaughter cows. But when you see a lot of cattle coming off grass at the same time, and you consistently and every year annually see the same feedlots that really want to buy those cattle because they know how they'll feed, and so they're going to be starting to fill up a lot of holes, well, then your feedlot buyers are not quite as aggressive as they were. And so we're starting to see that level off a little bit. But a lot of those cattle are now fully sold, and a lot of them have been sold on the video and contracted for the next few weeks here, the rest of this week and the next couple of weeks. But there's still going to be other feedlots that want to get in on those good green yearling cattle, and they'll show up at the auctions near your major grazing areas and give big prices for them. And we saw that happen on Tuesday, and we'll still continue to see it happen as it goes forward if we don't see anything else break the market. But just when you think everything's okay, oh no, another cattle on feed report is coming out. Well, and we'll see. It feels like we have a little room in this one to be bearish. Your on feed inventory as of July the 1st is 101.2. Bigger again than a year ago, with a lot more places for cattle to be other than the feedlot than there was a year ago. We've had a quote-unquote normal year this year for most of the nation, or the nation as a whole. Of course, we've seen some significant flooding in some places, and there's been fires and drought in others, but as a whole, a bigger percentage of the country has enjoyed timely rains, pretty good range and pasture conditions, and put up a ton of hay. I mean, and a ton is just a figure of speech there. That would be many thousand tons or million tons, but we put a lot of hay up this year, guys, and guys were glad to replenish their hay piles. But placements in June, the average in the analyst guess is 97.0, so 97% of a year ago. But your guesses ranged everywhere from 89.9% all the way up to 102%. So that'll be the number that shocks us the most on Friday at 2 o'clock Central. Marketings in June come in at 91.8, and you're thinking, whoa, what's going on here? Our steer and heifer slaughter has been pretty good. It's mostly been the slaughter cows and bulls that have been so tight, where our slaughter has been down, and we know that the slaughter as a whole for cattle has been down quite a bit, but it's mostly because there was 2 fewer days of slaughter in June than a year ago. So, but I do feel like that number gives us a little opportunity to be bullish on the top side of that, but your range and guesses were from like 90 to 94 there. But Imports have been higher. Second quarter imports of cattle from Mexico and Canada have been up 36% compared to a year ago. most of it coming from Mexico, because Mexico has been experiencing one of the worst droughts they've ever had in history. Through your Chihuahua and places that typically import cattle up into the United States. Canada has been shipping some cattle down here, but not now. I was in Western Canada last week and talking to those guys. You get around Feedlot Alley there in Western Canada, and they haven't been shipping any cattle because the market's better up there than it is down here. But nevertheless, those cattle are getting in here one way or the other, and we've got a good market here, of course, the best market we've ever seen. So people are going to try to take advantage of that in every way that they can. Something that is coming up here that I want to talk to you about. I'm against mandatory EID of all classes, especially against all classes of cattle having to have EID, but so far they've pushed down on us that they want us to have all of our breeding stock, cows and bulls and breeding age heifers, mandatory EID. Well, we've still got a chance to strike back against that, and I think we at least need to put up a fight, because if we don't, then we'll just wake up one morning and they'll just strike the pin and say that it's on all classes of feeder cattle and calves. But the U.S. House of Representatives will debate and vote on the House Ag Appropriations Bill probably next week, the week of July 22nd. If it's not that week, it'll be the next week probably. But they are going to debate and vote on that. Also, the amendments, including Harriet Hageman's amendment that prohibits mandatory EID on cattle and bison. We're glad that somebody's out there pushing back against that. And we think, or I think that we need to, as a whole, especially you small producers, you need to get a hold of your U.S. representative. You need to call the switchboard or email them. They have to view and listen to those. They have to. That's part of their job. So let them know how you feel. You can call in the switchboard and get a hold of your U.S. representative, or you can get their email address and email them. But you need to let them know that you want them to vote yes on Harriet Hageman's prohibition of mandatory EID tags. And, if we don't do it within the next week or 10 days, there's no need to bitch about it. You need to do it. Let's talk about your board for Tuesday. August live cattle futures up 55 cents at 182.67. October was up 72 cents at 184.52. Your back months were up 30 to 80 cents. August feeder cattle down 15 cents at 258.62. September was up 62 cents at 259.52. Back months were all up 50 to 80 cents in the face of slightly higher grains. December corn was up 4.5 cents a bushel at 408 3/4. November beans up 3 1/4 cents at 1043 1/4. And Kansas City hard red winter wheat for September was down 5 1/4 cents at 550 1/4. No fat cattle trade to speak of on a direct basis. Of course, it's early in the week. Did see a few fed cattle sell in Nebraska. It was mixed bag cattle, mixed steers and heifers, and they sold at $3.15 dressed, which is right up there, close to the top of last week's market, so no need to worry about that. But we did have price discovery on Tuesday, and we do every Tuesday in the fed cattle arena at Stockman's Livestock Market in Yankton, South Dakota. Recently added DVAuction Broadcasting. View and bid the sales right there. But at Stockman's in Yankton, they had 1,100 in overnight, 1,450 head for the fat cattle auction. Conventional fed cattle sold from $190 to $195.75. That's steady to $4 lower, similar to last week's direct market there. But your non-implanted cattle Slight premium there from $196 to $200.50. That was steady to $4.50 lower. But drug-free cattle, a step up in your programs there, and some really high-quality cattle in there sold very impressively from $192 to $204, and it was some prime Wagyu cross cattle there that sold from $202.5 to $204, and those drug-free cattle sold steady to $3.50 higher. I was also told by Gary Marks that goes to that sale, shares his information with me so I can share it with you, that there were a lot of two-way cattle in there, cattle that had room in them going back to the feedlot. Those cattle kind of made the market a little up and down, but those prices were not included in what I just gave you. So we don't quote the cattle that are going back to feed. But also at Stockman's Livestock Market in Yankton, Greg Rackin's going to have 5,500 head of top quality feeder cattle here today on Wednesday at Yankton, and you can view and bid that sale at DVAuction.com. Box beef cutout values were lower, but it didn't beat up prices too bad on other classes of cattle and beef. But choice cuts down $223 at $319.26. Selects down $323 at $301.59. Your slaughter just through the first 2 days of the week, 239,000. That is 7,000 better than last week's kill up to this point, and 8,000 less than the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Performance livestock analytics, and in particular performance beef, which is what you would be interested in of performance livestock analytics products. But performance beef for you cattle producers and cattle feeders, you can use performance beef to help you ditch the notebook, double data entries, or complicated software. You can do that with one easy to use solution. For more information, go to performancelivestockanalytics.com. Let's talk about your feeder cattle markets, your real-time index on DV auction late in the day on Tuesdays, based on an 800-pound cash auction steer up through your middle 12 states. Was sitting at 256.13. That was down 46 cents, and just a little bit easier there. And like I said, we filled a lot of those feedlots up, and they've backed off of those a little bit. Your latest CME cash feeder cattle index was 261.37. If you're looking for some impressive weaned calves, be high in quality, check out South Central Regional Stockyards on DV Auction. They're out of Vienna, Missouri. They're kind of having a special there, and in conjunction with that, they're going to be having a meet and greet from gubernatorial candidate Mike Kehoe there in Vienna, Missouri, and that's going to be at 11 o'clock in the morning there. And like I said, you can check out South Central Regional Stockyards on DVAuction.com. Talk about some sales we had on Tuesday. Ozarks Regional Stockyard in West Plains, Missouri. It was hot and humid there, and man, can it get hot and sticky in West Plains, Missouri. And it curbed receipts. They only had 1,600 head through the ring. They had another 730 through their in-house video they do with help from DV Auction. Calves through the ring sold good from steady to $4 higher. Didn't have a really good test of feeder cattle. The ones that were there sold steady to weak. Like I said, it was hot, and I mean, when it is hot down there, it is miserable hot. But they've had warnings, heat index warnings in that part of the country, but it is supposed to subside here later this week. OKC West, El Reno, Oklahoma, their Tuesday calf sale was pretty impressive. Of course, they have a bigger run on Wednesday with the feeders, but for the calf sale they had on Tuesday, they sold 127 steer calves, weighed 565, and bring 310. I thought that was pretty good for as hot as it's been this week. Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma had a good sale on Tuesday, about 2,600 head. And I told you about what a good run they were going to have on yearlings, and they did. One particular consignment on there that I'd like to show some attention to was the consignment of Jerry Bryant and the Jerry Bryant Ranch there. He is a former owner of Beaver County Stockyards. The Slatton and them bought it from Jerry Bryant, and they're proud that he still markets his cattle there. He had 240 head of yearling steers in there. 206 of them weighed from 850 to 900 pounds, sold in different groups, but as a whole they weighed 884 pounds with an average price of $267.33. Wow, that's good, but they were green and empty. How about Bluegrass Stockyards in Lexington, Kentucky? They sold 56 steers, weighed 815 and bring $261.75. But the most impressive quote that I saw or heard of anywhere on Tuesday, your Macrison No BS top quote for the day, come out of Lolly Brothers Livestock Market in Macon, Missouri. They sold 80 feeder heifers on DVAuction. They've been DVAuction broadcasters for a long, long time, but these sold online through the ring there. 80 head of feeder heifers weighed 668 and bring $284.50. And that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.